campaign that's being done in the middle of a conflict. Now, the secretary said he was not going to answer questions about personnel decisions that he's made on a personal level. He said he thanks these people for their service, but that he decided that there was a need for change in direction of leadership for the department. Connell? All
right, Hannah, keep us updated as this continues live on Capitol Hill for us here in New York. Paul Rykoff, the host of the Independent Americans podcast. And, Hannah went through some of the numbers there on the war and the firings, which you and I have talked about when you've been on with Pete Hegseth. But the other thing, this was much earlier in a very long hearing. I don't know if you heard the back and forth with Adam Smith, ranking Democrat on the committee, and talking to Hegseth essentially about nuclear ambitions in Iran and whatnot, but it was an interesting part of this. Here's Adam Smith and Pete Hegseth from earlier.
We had to start this war, you just said, 60 days ago, because the nuclear weapon was an imminent threat. Now you're saying that it was completely obliterated?
They had not given up their nuclear ambitions. Their ambitions continued.
All right, so basically, hey, what about this whole obliterated stuff? What do you make of Hegseth today?
Not a good day. Not a good day. I mean, this is like watching a fighter in the corner just getting pummeled. I mean, he's had a good run at times where he can control the message and he takes friendly questions from the new Pentagon propaganda press corps, which has like the My Pillow guy in it. Now he's in a real hearing, and the war is not going well and is an incomplete at best. And I think the question is going to be for most Americans, what have we gotten for $25 billion? $25 billion is an insane amount of money. And what you've gotten is the Strait of Hormuz is still not clear. Your gas prices are up, fertilizer's up, diesel's up. They haven't gotten the enriched uranium. The military is not obliterated, and the regime is still in place. So it doesn't look like a very good return on investment. And the bigger issue, they want more. They want $1.5 trillion. And I think most Americans, all political backgrounds, say, hey, that could go toward schools, that could go toward fixing roads, that could go maybe toward lowering prices here at home. It just doesn't look like a good investment. And I think Hegseth is really struggling because he doesn't look truthful. He's not answering questions directly. He's playing a lot of politics. And if you're explaining, you're losing.
Well, timeline-wise, too, people are starting to think, boy, we could be in this for a while because, President Trump now seems to have rejected what Iran's offer was, which was basically open up the strait and, get rid of this blockade, but we're not talking about nuclear right now. So he wants a nuclear deal, but so that means the blockade stays, he says. So yeah, that means extended war, right?
And more money. Right. Extended war. 41% of our Navy is now in the Gulf region. Yeah. And I've said before, this can become a sucking chest wound for our military. That's true. Now it's pulling in more resources, pulling in more dollars, pulling in more attention. And yesterday, Marco Rubio is talking about hitting Cuba. So this is bigger than Iran. This is about forever war. It's about continuing to go forward without congressional approval, without authorization. And they've blown past Congress. Now they want to go back to Congress and ask for the money. It should go the other way. They should ask for congressional approval, get bipartisan support, get money. And here's the other side of the ledger, too. They haven't even talked about the Department of Veterans Affairs. You're creating a whole new generation of veterans, and nobody's even asking for a plus-up at the Department of Veterans Affairs to care for them. I think it's another sign of how this plan is half-cooked and in many ways starting to unravel.
Well, we'll go back to what you just said, going to Congress. I mean, we're at the 60 days now. This is right around now, pretty much. We've been in it for a period of time where they, whatever you think of the war effort, whether you support it or not, you probably should support the fact that they should at least have Congress weigh in on it, or Congress should push to weigh in on it a little bit more maybe than they are.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't even really had hearings. This is the first time that they're kind of having an open hearing about all the issues surrounding Iran. And I think here's what's really important. The president's watching. We all know the president watches television. He watches his cabinet secretaries, and he's watching Hegseth struggle. Hegseth has been the TV guy for a long time, but now he's really struggling, and Republicans are calling for him to be removed. And Republicans see him dragging them down around the midterms, and that could force Trump to finally pull the trigger on removing Hegseth and putting out the fire and putting someone else in there who's less radioactive and gives him time and space to do the other things he wants.
Well, if he was watching, he took a break to have this chat with Vladimir Putin today. The Kremlin came out, as you heard, and they said that Putin put forth these ideas about Iran's nuclear program and this temporary ceasefire as a possibility in Ukraine. Here's more from Trump in the Oval on Putin just a short time ago.
I talked about Ukraine, and I talked a little bit about Iran. I talked about a few different subjects, mostly about Ukraine, and we had a very good conversation. I think we're going to come up with a solution relatively quickly, I hope.
I assume he's talking about Ukraine there with the relatively quick solution, but it's been going on a while.
Yeah, we've heard this before.
Yeah.
And now Putin's the peacemaker. Putin's the guy we're going to go to for peace on Iran. I mean, Putin's a bad actor. He's no friend of America. Despite the relationship that he has with Trump, he continues to pummel civilians and bomb cities. And the best way toward peace is for Putin to just stop. Stop bombing civilians, stop hitting Ukrainian cities, pull back from the lines of Ukraine. That's a great step toward peace. And I think there's also a contrast here. I mean, we've got the King of England in town, just downtown here, right? Yesterday, he sent a very strong message about unity, about supporting NATO, about supporting Ukraine. It was in direct contrast to what we've seen from the president, who sometimes thinks he's a king. And I think it really appealed to a lot of people's moderate senses on how America used to sound, how Ronald Reagan used to sound, especially when it came to talking about Russia. Yeah,
we were talking about it after, because we covered it live. It was right around this time yesterday. As soon as he wrapped up, we were talking about it. I think everyone on the panel seemed to agree there were some subtle jabs or shots, it seemed like, at the, maybe not the president personally, but about his policies, the way his worldview, you know, how he rejects alliances. I mean, a number of times it seemed like the king was kind of in his own way taking some shots at that.
Yeah, I think they were pretty direct shots. Yeah, I mean, some of them weren't even that subtle. And I think it's really important, too. I think the king is taking a long view here. He's talking to the American people. He's talking to the world. And today, going to Ground Zero, going to the 9/11 Memorial is important. Right. I'm a 9/11 first responder. Anytime a world leader comes and pays their respects.
This is them live, by the way. You can continue in a moment. Just screen right, I believe, is the Queen Camilla shot. She's at the New York Public Library, which is just down the block on Fifth Avenue, speaking to some children there, I think reading, participating in a panel that's there, and then screen left is in Harlem, where the king is attending an event up there, speaking to children as well, about, I believe, something to do with conservation and the like. So they've made a point to come to New York, but they started, to your point, downtown at the 9/11 Memorial.
Yeah, and they want to speak to all Americans. I think they want to try to be above politics, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, or maybe one day an independent in office. They want to talk to all Americans. They want to focus on children. They want to remind people that they appreciate our leadership, especially around 9/11 and on Afghanistan. They're reminding us they're a really good ally. They're a really important ally, and I think it's a good reminder that you need allies, especially in times like this.
Yeah, you need good friends. But, you know, again, that's been an issue during this war. One other thing before you go, let's talk about Jim Comey for a moment. We talked about it yesterday, was indicted again. You know, again, there have been legal questions about whether there's going to be any, including from conservatives, validity to the case. But today he surrenders to authorities. And again, the president in his appearance last hour spoke about this, this Comey case and said this.
If anybody knows anything about crime, they know 86. You know what 86? It's a mob term for kill 'em. People like Comey have created tremendous danger, I think, for politicians and others. You know, Comey is a dirty cop.
Dirty cop. So the idea he posted, or put a post up on social media, had a bunch of seashells arranged, and it said 8647 on, you know, 86, get rid of something, 47, there it is, 47th president, and that this could be a threat against the president is the claim. What do you make of all this?
I think it's an overreach. I think he's continuing to target his political enemies. He's also targeting Jimmy Kimmel for what he's saying. I mean, we're supposed to protect free speech in this country. I mean, this is a murky area where anybody who posts anything on social media that might be construed as a threat to the president could now face the wrath of the Justice Department. I mean, this guy was the FBI director. He can call him whatever he wants, but he's going to have to prove his case. And last time he tried, he failed. So he's going to try again. I'm not a legal expert, but I don't know if you're going to put Comey in jail over this. But the more important point is he's sending a chilling effect across the country, whether it's the FBI director or Jimmy Kimmel. There's a real, I think, attack on free speech and attack on trying to silence people who are speaking out specifically against this administration. That's not a direct assassination threat. That's something very different. We saw that in Washington this weekend, but I think the president has a bit of the wind at his back after the shooting in Washington this weekend, and I think he's going to try to capitalize on that momentum and continue to do what he always does.
Do what? Distract from?
Come after his enemies. And continue to come after the free press. I mean, they're coming after Jimmy Kimmel, but they're also coming after Stars and Stripes. He's always talking about CNN and other networks. They continue to score wins, too. They've hurt PBS. They've changed CBS. He's driving toward changing the entire media landscape. And so far, he's had some pretty big wins. And I think he'd like to see Kimmel go down, and he'd like to see Comey in jail. But so far, he hasn't been able to.
But I also wonder, the media landscape broadly is what you're talking about. I wonder about the immediate media landscape in terms of what's being talked about, what the conversation is about an unpopular war that you and I just talked about, and whether the timing of all of this surrounding that means anything.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he always wants to drive the narrative.
Right.
And I think the challenge for Trump is the war has gone sideways, and he hasn't been able to control that narrative, especially when you see the price tag of $25 billion, you see the Strait of Hormuz is closed. He can talk about Comey, he can talk about other things, but I think the world is going to keep coming back to gas prices, and America especially, when gas hits $4.25, I think is the average now in America.
Yeah.
That's a hard one to deny.
I have the gas prices here, you're right, on the telestrator. We can pop it up, $4.23, so you're not far off.
That's crazy.
And the big thing for people is this, the increase, right? 42% since the 27th of February, but now we're lingering. You thought maybe you'd pull back. No. Oil's up well over 100, gas at 423. Thank you, Paul, as always. Let me do two things. Let's first remind people about the latest episode of Paul's podcast, then we'll go back to Hegseth for a moment. Independent Americans, there it is. Cost of Iran, Todd Achilles, who's running as an independent in Idaho, the latest guest. Now, on Capitol Hill,